All right, so now we started working with rasters, but the thing we haven't gotten into yet is that we really haven't gotten into kind of rasters that contain their own data sets, right? So we call these gridded rasters or gridded image data sets. And what I mean by that can actually be found in the data that I've provided for you. So on Brightspace, you should have been able to download the National Land Cover data set for Indiana. And you can see right now I've got that little watershed boundary on there. But the National Land Cover data set, if we start to zoom in on this, what you're going to actually see is that we zoom down to a pixel level. And this is actually a grid, and we can go ahead and just kind of click right across this grid. And what each one of these cells, they're actually set up as 30 meters by 30 meters, so 900 square meters in size. And the entire United States is analyzed using this. Now, over here you can see the types of categories that all of this land cover has been compiled into. And again, this is based on aerial imagery. It's supported by photo interpretation methods. Those photo interpretation methods, there is some level of AI, so some automation that's in them. Really, really high quality data sets. Unfortunately, we don't have a super high quality data set for the state of Indiana, so we tend to use the federal data set. But Wisconsin, for instance, has multiple different levels above and beyond kind of what you've got here. And so they break down, say, developed landscapes into much more detailed information. Some of that data is actually field verified, and so they'll send people out into the field to actually go and check and make sure it's working. But this is what we mean by a gridded raster. And so anywhere in the state of Indiana that I want to zoom, what I'm going to find is that I'm going to find these 30 meter by 30 meter cells. Now, if I wanted to go in and isolate out, these cells, and only look at developed landscape, I could literally just come through. I can't remember if, no, it won't let me do this. So you have to do them individually. I could come through all of these and just kind of drop the color out from everything except for developed land uses, right? And so that would be one way, very simple way of going ahead and graphically showing that here in the state of Indiana, here's all of our developed land uses. Now, being landscape architects, maybe there's something even more interesting in here. One of those being this layer that says developed open space. And so, we might be interested. I'm actually kind of interested to see what's all included in that. And so if I just go ahead and zoom in, what I'm going to find in terms of urban open space is that I'm literally finding some, within this, that some people's backyards, especially in kind of low density sprawling development, have been included in this. We're definitely getting some level of schools, parks, other green spaces that we would normally think of when we're talking about this, but we're not getting some others, right? And so this is a country club, a big golf course. And the reason for that is that there may actually be buried within this another code that, where these have actually gotten tossed in or misclassified. And so I wonder if they've been misclassified. It doesn't look like hay or pasture is coming into play, so maybe that's good. But you could do some digging and kind of dig this up. And kind of, look in and explore this. This is really, again, the starting point for looking at this. The National Land Cover data set is fine. It's not been updated in a number of years, so it's out of date is one of the issues with it. Hopefully that means we're coming up on a new and much better version of the National Land Cover data set. But there are alternatives to that. And the other one is the one that I had you download from Brightspace. And if this doesn't come up when you go to add data, the reason is that you actually have to extract it twice. There's the main folder, and then there is a subfolder that you actually have to go in and extract both folders in order to get access to this data set. And what's unique about the cropland data layer, it's developed by the U.S. Department of Agriculture, and it's meant to track what we're growing in the agricultural landscape every year. The upside to that is that many of these rural areas also contain things that we're interested in as environmental planners, things like, tree cover, pasture, ideally prairie and wetlands, but those have some additional limitations on them. And again, if you start scrolling out for the state of Indiana, you see lots and lots and lots of yellow, which would be corn and other row crops, are grown in the state of Indiana. And then down south, you see more of kind of this consolidated forest area. That's about all I want to show you here with the National Land Cover data set, is just help you understand that that's what's going on behind this. The other thing that does exist in the background here is that if you open up the attribute table for the, oh, that's the cropland data layer. I'm sorry, I want the National Land Cover data set. If I go ahead and open up the attribute table, you can actually do that there as well, right? The other thing that you can find is that for each one of these, you see this count field. And what the count field is the count field is the number of those 30 meter by 30 meter grid cells that exist out there. Now, if we know that we have 900 square meters, right, and we actually want to convert that over into acres, this is the calculation that has to happen, is that in order to calculate out how many acres, say, of, let's look for cultivated crops, what we would do is take this number here, which I'm reading is 56 million tiles in that grid, and multiply it by 0.222, so about a quarter of 50 million, and you're going to come up with something that is about 12 to 13 million acres of cultivated crops in the state of Indiana. Much smaller values you see in these others, right? And so that calculation, right, is really important, that 30 meters by 30 meters is 900 square meters. 900 square meters gets converted into acres by multiplying the count that you see here on the screen by 0.222, and that's how you can get a land cover assessment. In the next video, I'll show you how to kind of cut down to a study area so you can start to pull these calculations out very simply for your study area.